Genius Maxima.
Okay, so today we're diving into some real controversy.
A cauldron of controversy.
Yeah, you could say that. It's been brewing in the Harry Potter fandom. Seems like every witch and wizard online has a very strong opinion about the latest casting news for the HBO series. I'm Nolan, your humble Hufflepuff.
And I'm Celia, wise bride of Ravenclaw.
And let's be honest, even we're feeling a bit shaken by this one. Deadline just announced that Paapa Essiedu, he's been in I May Destroy You and the Lazarus Project. He's in talks to play Severus Snape. Yeah, and now, Essiedu, he's fantastic. Very talented actor, but
Absolutely.
a lot of fans are saying he just doesn't fit the look as we know him.
Yeah, this is like re-sparking this whole debate we see in so many fandoms now. This whole race-bending versus faithful adaptation thing.
Right, like HBO said this would be a faithful adaptation, but for a lot of fans, this just feels like a huge change from the books.
For sure.
Totally. And then, of course, we have Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
I mean, his portrayal in the movies was just
Iconic.
so iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to picture anyone else as Snape.
Right, and now they're casting an actor who looks completely different, and a black actor, no less.
Yeah, people are scratching their heads. Like, why make such a huge change?
It really makes you question what they mean by a faithful adaptation.
Right. Is it about sticking to the visuals, or is it more about capturing the feel of the character? So we're going to unpack the arguments here. We're going to look at both sides, look at how this might affect the show, and try to make sense of it all. Let's start with why so many fans are upset about the casting.
Okay.
So, in the books, Snape is described very specifically. He's got pale skin, greasy black hair, and a hooked nose. And that image, it's so stuck in people's minds, especially after Alan Rickman in the movies.
Right.
So the question is how Snape looks actually essential to his character?
Yeah. They're saying that whole look, that whole gloomy aesthetic, that's all part of his personality, his motivation. Some are even saying, like, his love for Lily, his resentment, that wouldn't even land the same if he wasn't white.
And then there's the question of, you know, those huge moments in the story, those scenes with James Potter and Sirius Black.
Oh, yeah.
Fans who are really holding on to this idea of Snape's original appearance, they're worried that if you change his race, it makes it harder to understand his experiences, you know, being bullied.
You're talking about the implications of having a black actor play a character with a somewhat problematic backstory.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. Snape's past is, well, it's pretty messy to say the least. He was bullied. He grew up poor. There are even hints that one of his parents was an alcoholic. And then, of course, he turns to dark magic. Having a black actor portray all that, it's bringing up some tough questions.
It's a really sensitive issue for sure. And you know the series already has a history of not always portraying people of color in the best light.
Like the goblins? You know?
Exactly. So some fans are worried that this casting could just make things worse.
And it makes those scenes where James Potter bullies Snape even more problematic.
Right. Is it going to come across as racially motivated now?
Will it make James look like a racist?
Which would be a problem since he's supposed to be redeemed later on.
Yeah, it adds a whole new layer to things that wasn't there in the books.
It'll be really interesting to see how they handle it. Can they address something this complex with the nuance it deserves?
It also makes you think about Snape's, well, his incel energy, you know. It's a big part of who he is.
That obsession with Lily?
Yeah, his resentment towards James, his bitterness, it all comes from that feeling of rejection.
And casting a black actor in that role, it adds another dimension to the whole thing.
Yeah, it makes you think about how race might play into it.
Especially in relation to Lily, who is white. And some fans are even saying that they feel like HBO is doing this just to get attention.
Oh, you think so?
Like they just want to cause a stir and get people talking about the show, which is kind of cynical, you know?
I mean, it's working, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely working.
It's like they care more about shock value than staying true to what the books were about.
Right. I saw this one meme. I don't know if you saw it. It was like, a black man would be perfect casting for Snape since Harry spends his whole school career going, I swear that guy is up to no good with no hard evidence, and then becomes a cop.
Yeah, that one's going around.
It's hilarious.
It is, but it also like kind of touches on some serious issues, right?
Oh, for sure.
about racial bias and how we might see Snape because of his race.
So it seems like for a lot of fans, they see this casting as a betrayal of the books, you know? But is there another way to look at it?
There are definitely fans who are actually excited about this. They're pushing back on this whole idea that Snape's looks are so tied to his character.
Okay.
They're arguing that a good actor can capture who Snape is regardless of race, you know?
Yeah.
They think Essiedu could actually add something new to Snape, you know, like challenge how we see him, make us think differently about him.
And there's also this whole double standard thing, right? Some fans are bringing that up. They're saying, like, the people who are super angry about this, they weren't this loud about J.K. Rowling's own views.
Right.
You know, a lot of people had issues with.
Yeah, it makes you think, where do people draw the line when it comes to adapting these stories? You know? What's so sacred that you can't change it?
Right.
Like, is it more important to stick to every detail, even if that means the story stays, like, not very diverse?
Right.
Or is it more important to update these stories for today, you know?
Yeah.
To make them more inclusive?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've got fans who are, like, fiercely protective of how Snape looks, and we've got fans who are excited about a new interpretation. And then we have HBO right in the middle of it all.
Exactly. And their casting so far has been kind of all over the place, hasn't it? They cast Janet McTeer as McGonagall, which is pretty close to how she's described.
Right.
But then they cast John Lithgow as Dumbledore, and he's the first American actor to get a big part in Harry Potter.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what are they doing? Are they trying to shake things up on purpose? Are they going for a totally different Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Or are they trying to make something that feels both familiar and new? I don't know.
It's hard to say. But this Snape casting, I mean, it's opened up a can of worms. It's about race, representation, how we adapt stories.
It's sparking huge conversations, even if they're getting a bit heated.
Oh yeah, for sure. This isn't even just about Snape anymore, is it?
I don't think so.
It's about the future of Harry Potter, how we deal with these complicated issues in stories that we love. I mean, this whole thing really shows how hard it is to take a book series and make it into a show.
Yeah.
You're trying to please the fans, right? They have such strong feelings about how it should look and feel. But then you also want to make it work for new people, a new generation.
It's a tough balance.
It is. It's like walking a tightrope, right?
Yeah.
One wrong step and everyone's mad.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got race and representation.
Right.
The stakes are even higher now.
For sure.
You got to get it right, not just for the story, but for what it says to people watching.
Speaking of getting it right, some fans are saying if HBO wanted more diversity, they should have just created new characters. Instead of changing the ones we already have.
Right.
They're saying this race bending thing, it can feel, I don't know, like a surface level attempt at inclusivity.
Yeah.
Especially when the character's race wasn't that important to who they were in the original story.
That's a good point. It makes you think, what actually makes a character's race important?
Right.
Is it just how they're described in the book? Or is there more to it than that?
That's a tough question.
It is. But it's a conversation we need to have, especially now with all these adaptations trying to fix the lack of diversity.
Right.
And this isn't even the first time we've seen this, right? Remember the Percy Jackson adaptation?
Oh, yeah.
When they cast a black actress as Annabeth? She's described as blonde and blue-eyed in the books. Huge backlash.
Yeah, but in that case, Rick Riordan, the author, he actually came out and supported the casting, saying representation and inclusivity are important.
Makes you wonder if J.K. Rowling will say anything about this.
Yeah, she's been quiet so far.
Just adding fuel to the fire, you know?
For sure. Even if she does come out and support Essiedu, it might not change anything.
Probably not.
For the fans who feel like this just fundamentally changes who Snape is.
I think we have to acknowledge that feeling, try to understand where it's coming from. For a lot of people, Snape's looks are just so tied to who they think he is as a character. Changing that can feel like messing with something sacred, you know?
And some people are worried about casting a black actor as Snape, especially because he starts out with a lot of negative traits.
Right.
It could, like, reinforce some bad stereotypes.
That's a valid concern. Shows how race bending can go wrong, right? If you don't do it carefully, it can end up making the biases worse.
It's risky.
It is big time.
Only time will tell if HBO made the right call.
But no matter what happens, this whole Snape thing has already had a big impact.
For sure.
It's made us face tough questions about race, about representation,
Yeah.
about how these stories we love change over time.
How this fits into the bigger picture of adapting these stories.
But the real question is, what does this mean for Harry Potter, going forward?
Some fans are already saying they're done, they're not watching the show because of this, saying it's too much, that HBO cares more about being woke than staying true to the story.
I get it. These books and movies, they mean so much to people.
Yeah.
It makes sense that they want to protect them.
But isn't there a chance this could just overshadow everything else about the show? Like, what if the writing is amazing?
Yeah.
What if Essiedu is incredible?
Right.
Will people even be able to get past this?
That's the challenge for HBO, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have to show those skeptical fans that this is worth watching, that they're respecting the books, but also doing something new.
Maybe they should just address it head on.
You think so?
Maybe a statement, or even have the characters talk about race and stuff in the story itself.
That's risky, but it could be a way to acknowledge how people are feeling and also use it as a chance for some real conversation.
Right.
But even if HBO does everything perfectly, I don't know if they can win everyone back.
Yeah.
Some fans are just so over it, especially with all the J.K. Rowling stuff. Might have already moved on.
Shows that adapting these stories is hard. Trying to make everyone happy, but everyone has different ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you end up making more people mad than you make happy.
So what do we think? Is this a good move or a bad move? I mean, is this going to change Snape forever, or is this going to ruin the whole series?
It's hard to say.
But one thing's for sure, this is a big deal for Harry Potter.
Absolutely.
This casting, all the reaction to it, it started a conversation that's bigger than just Snape, bigger than the show.
Yeah, and we need to keep talking about this. As fans, the future of Harry Potter depends on it, really. It depends on us being willing to deal with these issues and find a way to, move forward.
I completely agree. So what do you all think? Was this a good move? A bad move? Let us know in the comments.
And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the magical world of Harry Potter. Until next time, keep your wands at the ready, and remember, the chamber awaits.
Lumos Maxima.